Welcome, everyone, to Platonic Gaming. We are here again playing Metroid Dread. I am joined with Kyle and Ben, as always.
Hello.
We will be continuing from where we left off last time. Our question for today is, do we always act out of fear? And that can be fear of death, fear of failure, fear of what other people are going to think, fear in general. So are all the actions we take based in fear?
I would argue for the most part, yes. And my reasons for that are, if you look at some of the philosophy studies, each philosopher almost has their own name for it, but it's like this common ground that we all share, beyond just regular fear or even just the fear that happens in the fight, flight, freeze cycle, you know. Why do we do the things we do? Why do we lie? Why do we have friends or need friends? Why do we, you know what I mean? Why do we fall subject to, you know, stuff like nostalgia, drugs, maybe even just feel the need for religion or whatever. There's this existential, it's an existential philosophy, but the idea is that they bring up, there's just this, the psychological term for it is xenophobia. The modern usage of the word is the fear of strangers and foreigners, but...
I thought it was the fear of aliens.
Right? Xenomorphs. The fear of xenomorphs. I knew it.
Seems like a reasonable fear.
I mean, if you've ever seen those movies, it's a very reasonable fear.
Just like I am very reasonably afraid of the things in this room.
Like that thing that you just ran into?
Well, mostly that
xenomorph?
thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Mostly that guy?
Yeah,
mostly that guy. Anyways, and this can be the fear of ambiguity, some call it, and they have different reasons or theories, basically, for why we all have this shared fear. And the reason, and a lot of philosophers, I think Karl Marx and who was it we were talking about last night? Nietzsche bring up that, just for example, religion could be one of the solutions for these fears, right? Is we're all afraid of not just death, but what happens after death. Is our life truly pointless? Are we going through all this pain for nothing, right?
I'm in the same situation you were in last time, Kyle. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
You're trapped.
Okay.
Why?
Now!
You did it!
Get out!
Don't open the door! Go to the door! Go to the door!
Oh,
Slam it!
Oh yeah. Do it, survive. Yeah.
Hey, slide under him. Oh, never mind.
I don't need to.
That was the issue.
That opens the door?
Yeah.
When he's, like, stunned? Oh. So far, Kyle, you've, like, established that you kind of, like, talked about, like, a lot of common fears that we all have and stuff. But that doesn't really answer the question, does every choice that we make, is every choice we make based on fear?
Right. So this is a constant feeling, as most philosophers describe. I think as Simone de Beauvoir, if I'm pronouncing that right, describes it as the fear of ambiguity, which means the fear of our lives meaning either more than one thing or so many things that it means nothing, essentially. And I mean, I may be describing it wrong, do some more research on that, but it's something that follows all throughout life. Why do we need to find this meaning? Why do I need to become a mother, a father? Why do I need to eat this food versus another food, right? Why do I need to satisfy this feeling with drugs, alcohol, foods, religion,
So your claim is that all human behavior can be explained as a reaction to this existential fear of impermanence, fear of meaninglessness.
Right. And part of what goes along that, you were the one who told me about the guy who kind of brought this idea up, but so you may be able to give us a name for him. But the idea is that if aliens were to look down on this Earth, if they had one word, human word, obviously, to describe the way we all act, the word would be religious, and or worshiping. Right? Yeah. Because we worship media, we worship video games. You know what I mean? We all go through these.
Plus, there's actual worship too, like religion.
Well, ones that we describe as worship, but
right? But even like political philosophies.
Philosophies
kind of filled that same. I guess the concept is if an alien culture were like observing us,
right,
they wouldn't necessarily really be able to distinguish between political ideologies and all these other things and what we consider, what we name as religions.
Right, exactly. Because of that worshiping factor and where you go through these religious processes, essentially.
Like a rite of passage or whatever?
Yeah, a rite of passage, essentially, kind of
right.
is closer to it. But there's another word I'm thinking of. Anyways, but the fact that we behave this way in almost every way, in every place that we do things, that is where I would argue that, fear does control.
Kill it!
No, you failed. Dylan, come on.
Hey, I was listening to you guys.
I thought you were a gamer.
Hey, I did it the first time. Like, first try of the recording.
I know, and you did it right before, too, I think. Twice in a row or something.
You guys were talking about...
But that, regardless, the fact that we act this way the entire time, in almost everything that we do, and that aliens or something outside looking at us would not be able to distinguish between this religious need, right, and is because we act this way out of fear all the time, and it affects everything we do.
Right, but what is...
So, how does that explain, like, altruism?
Altruism is also something you worship.
No, but how does it, like...
What do you mean?
How can that be an act of fear if you're acting totally selflessly, like, in defense of someone else?
Altruism doesn't exist, man.
You think there's no such thing as altruism? Because there are definitely examples of people acting altruistically.
So you think that no 100%? One ever does something that's not for themselves?
Exactly. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everyone is intentionally always selfish. I think there is a feeling, and I forgot which philosopher talks about this, but there is a feeling in altruism of peace that you get, and or some sort of justification you would get for yourself on why you're risking your life, essentially, or whatever, why you're giving this up. And that would be one of those things that subdues this fear, right? Is if I'm going to give up my life for someone else, the idea of, oh, I'm acting selfishly, or not so selfishly, subdues this fear a little bit of, was my life meaningless? Because now I assign meaning to it. You know what I mean? The fact that we have to assign meaning to everything alone, essentially...
So you're saying that that act of assigning meaning is...
out of fear.
Is proof that...
Right.
You're afraid of meaninglessness.
Right. And then the other alternative to that is when you don't assign things so much. Part of that is simply you avoiding the fear of meaninglessness. Is you're avoiding feeling that fear because you're not assigning that, oh, this means I'm failing in a way, right?
So basically by what you've been saying,
yeah,
am I to understand that you think all actions are specifically taken out of the fear of meaninglessness? Or is there other fear involved as well?
I think, yeah, essentially that's the argument from a lot of these philosophers. What I think is there is no action that does not involve that as one of the reasons, and that you can have multiple reasons for doing so.
So,
like
you have like competing fears that are
I think they're separate.
Informing your decisions, but are there other factors that couldn't be described as fears that are taken into account in decision making? Because what you're kind of saying is that was what I was trying to emphasize in the tactical reason. You're in chess, right?
And
you make
not
choices
out of
based.
fear,
but
you're setting up for something, right?
Right. You make a choice that is just strategic. Because you have a specific end goal.
Right. Exactly. But then you could make the argument that you want this end goal for whatever reasons. Why are you playing chess in the first place? You know, essentially.
Why are you playing chess?
That's a great question.
Just kidding, I would guess.
You're definitely just shooting at the ceiling down.
I don't know why it wasn't hitting that guy, I promise.
It was to the right.
Well, I was trying to aim and he wasn't moving his little laser.
Oh, well. Sorry. Anyways, do you have any arguments for things other than that? Or, like... Because I'm
pretty afraid right now.
So all of Down's choices are currently based on fear.
Yeah, like
every single one.
They're driven purely by fear.
While they are tactically involved as well.
The fundamental motivation is fear.
The fundamental motivation is fear.
Sure is.
It's juking me out!
You're supposed to juke it out now.
You are doing it wrong. Shitting this backwards.
What? Okay. I don't think it knows where I am anymore.
That's good, except...
Anyway, just to give a little bit of a voice to the other side.
Yes.
If the fear of meaninglessness and nothingness is the sole motivator for anything, then how do you explain people who are like optimistic nihilists, for example? People who accept their
nihilists.
So people who nihilism is basically.
Oh yes, there is this guy. Oh, I should have done some research on him, but he talks about finding hope in that nihilistic view. Actually, this existential nihilistic view, where actually now is all you have, along with that. Is your purpose in life is to essentially
to make your own purpose.
To make your own purpose.
There is no greater meaning to life. And that's what gives it its beauty. I would say that is fundamentally different from the fear of nothingness. And in fact, it's kind of contrary to it.
And I'd argue with that too. There are other philosophers that have different reasons for whatever this phenomenon is that we all have. Mostly Simone de Beauvoir was kind of just the most studying I did, and the person I could think of. There's but anyways, there are other reasons, but there is this essential phenomenon of this underlying feeling that we all feel. But
that doesn't, just because we feel that doesn't mean that is the
reason.
The reasoning behind all
decisions. Exactly. But it is an underlying thing that affects a lot of our decisions, arguably.
Sure. It can affect your decisions, but it might not be the sole purpose for them.
But in this optimistic nihilistic view, think about it, is that your decisions are now made because of this original feeling or fear, and then you have just overcome it, and then overcoming it becomes your new purpose for life. And so essentially it's
but it's not even really overcoming it, it's more of letting it go. And so then it's not
part of overcoming things.
Then you're no longer making choices based on that fear. You're letting go of that fear, right?
You're letting go of that fear, but you're now basing your choices on letting go of that fear almost.
I'm not afraid.
That was an object lesson in overcoming your fears.
Sure was.
Blast it to bits.
You'll blast it in the face with some lasers.
Even though it's approaching you. threateningly. Also, though, contrary to everything being based on fear, there's a big, like Ben brought it up a little bit earlier when he was talking about how do you explain altruism. And regardless of whether or not true altruism exists in the real world, there's definitely a concept, and there's definitely like, what do you call it? Like philanthropy and people who do things just for the sake of like
doing
the goodness
what
of
they
them.
call the right thing. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Regardless of whether or not it is right, they're doing it because they think it's right.
Right, but why do they think it's right? Or why would they do something they think is right if nothing matters, right? See, and then that's where religion comes along, like, you create up this story, essentially, whether it's true or not, regardless, there's some sort of truth or story or whatever that you are choosing to believe out of avoidance of this fear of ambiguity. Anyway.
Well, then, so I watched this video.
And because you're now believing these things, it's still the underlying cause, essentially, according to Simone de Beauvoir. I think it's Simone de Beauvoir that says that. I may be mixing up philosophers. But it's now the underlying cause for you believing in religion, and then your religion tells you to believe this other stuff. Because you could argue that the idea is that maybe there's this dogma you have, or this belief you have, of that when you're serving something, it helps you too. Or serving someone, it serves you as well. Right? And that may be true, because there's like actual service, and it has been scientifically recorded that oftentimes when people are helping someone, they feel good as well.
But when you make a decision and you are rewarded in some way for that decision by the kind of the natural consequences of that decision, that doesn't mean that decision was based on fear. Because just because there are natural rewards for decisions,
but it could be based on subduing said opposite feeling, right? The opposite feeling would be this fear. And or this existential dread, some call it, and whatnot. And you want to feel this good feeling, which is in the moment and whatnot, and then the altruistic thing to do is whatever we decide is this good thing, right? But what is the motivator for it? Why do you... People can't do things without some sort of motivation for it, and that to me is psychologically true. I could be wrong, I am understudied on that.
I think that you can consider love to be a motivation.
Sure.
In the sense, and what I'm talking about when I say that, what I'm picturing is art, for example. People do things because they love to do it. They create because they love it.
Right.
And it's not, they do not create because they're afraid that if they don't, their life will have no meaning.
Why do we need to feel love, though? Why do we like to feel love? Because apparently we have this feeling all the time. What are you feeling if you're not feeling love? If you're not feeling all these other things, yeah?
For another time, I think. Love is a very complex subject.
Yes, it is.
I do not love whatever's happening with this beastie boy.
Well, I can tell you that he loves you, Ben.
Feeling is not mutual.
Anyway, there's definitely a lot to be said for the, I definitely think it could go either way. Well, rather, there are arguments to be made for both sides.
And I think there definitely are. I'm definitely less studied on the arguments towards the opposite, obviously. Anyways, hopefully some of these viewers can tell us more about it. Half of what I'm hoping for from this channel is people to teach me better.
Right.
Or at least give me cues on what to learn, you know. And so,
anyway, so I think that's our discussion for today. If you want to look a little bit more into the discussion of fear,
why we do things,
there's a great video I saw by Vsauce about what is the root of all fear, and is it like, what are our motivations for things? I'll link to it somewhere once I figure out how to do that.
In the comments, maybe,
or in the description, or I think there's a little iCard that you can do as well.
Okay.
But join us next time for a discussion on what is love. Baby, don't hurt me. Just like I'm about to do to this guy.
No more. I know my voice
won't hurt him no more.
Sure won't, because he's dead.
He feels no pain now.
This has been Platonic Gaming. Be sure to like and subscribe. Share with all your friends, because we need more viewers. More people. I think the more people think about these kinds of questions on a daily basis, or maybe not even on a daily basis, just if you can think deeply about one question a week and challenge your conceptions, your misconceptions, or just conceptions. Just challenge the way your worldview.
Yeah.
Then you can become a
better person,
a better citizen, a more capable
of solving problems.
Yeah.
It's just like teaching critical thinking, but offering more avenues on ways to think, ways to solve problems even, or
exactly.
Maybe realizing how the same we are sometimes when we think about how often we all experience a lot of the same feelings, a lot of the same issues, you know, and I don't know, philosophy myself has essentially actually helped with depression and like not isolating myself from other people, because I'm able to look at them as the same and or similar to me, right?
Right. So there's a lot to be gained through this. It's more than, I don't know, at least my goal for this whole venture is more of an educational thing, partially a social thing, but also just a thing to help better yourself. So if you think that's something that you'd be interested in, then consider...
While having a good time watching
That's
Dallin
true.
die.
It is a great time. I only died twice, and it was to the Emmy, so I don't feel bad. I didn't even die to the boss.
All right, fair enough. But the boss is very much easier than
I dare you. You want to try it? I haven't saved since I beat him.
Dude, my point is that once the enemy finally gets to attack you, you're dead. You don't... When you get to dodge...
You can fight Kraid. I think Kraid is the next boss.
Okay. I will definitely do worse, because I have only played, like, once
Alrighty.
in this game.
Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.